Hi, my name is Dan Smith, and welcome to the first podcast episode of 2019.
Yeah.
Today, a very special guest is the president of Smith Publicity, Sandy Smith. And although Smith is a common name, for those of you who don't know, we are in fact married.
Yay.
Don't be so excited, Sandy. As I said, Sandy's the president of Smith Publicity, and she's been with the company for
Since 2005.
Since 2005, and she will never say it, so I'll say it because she's very modest, is that she really is one of the thought leaders in book marketing and has been for a long time, and has helped the company stay ahead of trends and changes in the industry. And she's a terrific speaker and presenter. Last year, as an example, she spoke at the Independent Authors Conference by Book Baby and gave an outstanding presentation that got rave reviews. And many people said it was one of the best they've seen. So she is a true leader in this industry and has a ton of expertise. And today we're going to talk about how authors can maximize their publicity and media coverage that is produced during a publicity campaign. Many of our authors, we have to educate on this topic because they'll have a great campaign and get all this terrific media coverage and just let it be and don't utilize it and don't maximize it. And there is so much that can be done and should be done once they, when they get coverage. And so Sandy, we're going to talk about that topic, and you're going to give some insights into the things authors can do to, again, maximize their publicity and media coverage to get the most out of their campaign and to have it produce benefits for a very long period of time. So to start off, give an overview of what authors can do and or why it's important.
Sure. So I talk, and this is primarily for kind of expert authors, nonfiction authors who are looking to use the book as a marketing tool, to use it to attract new audiences, new clients, customers, speaking engagements. So I'll talk to, I'm not even sure how many authors a week I talk to, but a handful every week, and certainly many each month. I talk to CEOs, thought leaders, people who are really excited to get their book out. So as they're saying, hey, do you think we're a good fit for one another for publicity, what I have to do is not just talk to them about their book and their goals. That's kind of standard. But what goes beyond this in our conversations is how will you measure the success of publicity? What are you looking to do with media exposure? So we talk about their goals, and it's kind of an unexpected conversation I think many of them have when we're talking about book publicity, because now we're talking about their business plan and who they are and who they're going to be. So the role of publicity, whether it's a podcast interview, a bylined article, expert commentary, when we get experts and authors in the news, the goal of that is to entice people to want to learn more about the expert. Wow, these 5 tips were fantastic. Let me learn more. Now, when learning more, the author or client might want, say, to sell consulting services or to be a keynote speaker. From one article, that translation to business isn't likely going to happen for a complete stranger. So the author needs to know, have a plan on how they're going to entice these people to want to learn even more about them. So what is the plan? So you have your dream media coverage. So you're on Fast Company, you're on the Today Show, you're in AARP magazine. These are kind of some of the big gets that people are asking us. So you get your dream coverage. What are you going to do with that new attention? What is the plan to monetize media exposure? And there's a number of ways that authors can do this.
And maybe you can, and this is geared toward nonfiction, not just business, but self-help.
But self-help, anyone who's an expert author.
So, as a good example, recently in the last month or so, we've had 3 or 4 people on the Today Show.
Yes, we've had a nice run with the Today Show.
Yes, and you have some great connections there. So, as an example, what can those authors who were on the Today Show recently do to get the maximum benefit from that appearance, because they're on the air for 4 to 7 minutes at most,
Right.
and it's broadcast and it's done. So you don't want to count on the people who are just seeing it at that time. There's, especially now with the video can be online of the interview and so forth. So
Sure.
yesterday, I believe we had somebody on the Today Show. What can that person do to maximize that interview?
Right, so all kinds of things. So once someone learns about you, they come to your website, you have to have a way to connect with them further and let them know how you are sharing content. If you have just a staid website that says, here I am, here's my book, here's my expertise, and a contact page, they're likely going to bounce right off that page. So you want to have some free content. So whether it's webinars, white papers, again, depending on your expertise, quizzes, any type of creative content, sign up for your blog. Your number one asset is going to be collecting email addresses.
And this is from the Today Show interview, driving people to the website.
Driving people to the website. So before you have that interview, you want to have your online brand ready for attention from new people. I hear from people, yes, I want to be this yesterday, I'd like to be a keynote speaker. I have my book, I've got my message, I go to the website. Nowhere on their website do they have speaker except for one small line way buried in the bottom of the contact page. And I said, if you want to attract speaking opportunities, this is not the way to do it. You can't make people work for that. Like, wow, I never thought about that. They'll say, I want to be to doing webinars, and I have a whole plan to do them in 2019. So I go to the website, there's no webinars. I said, before you invest in media attention, if you're going to have paid or free webinars, put those out there now. Get your newsletter out there, segment your newsletter, have your business plan in place so that when someone does watch the Today Show, they can come online, they can take the quiz as our client did, they can collect email addresses, and so start having a conversation, an interaction relationship with you as an expert, which will then open up opportunities for them to turn that interest into, say, a paid client.
Two things that brings to mind. You often talk about the importance of getting email addresses for newsletters, and it's something that you've really educated me on in terms of why that's important. And I think a lot of people understand, okay, I collect the email addresses, but then what, they're in a magazine, they're on the Today Show, drive to the website, people can sign up for the newsletter. Why is that so important? Why is it so important to get those email addresses?
Sure. It's to have a conversation with people who are interested in you and your topic and your expertise. So whether your newsletter is once a week, once a month, and you can kind of pick what's best for your personality and your topic, you can then continue to drive out content. And you have to always lead with content. And what I mean by that is solutions. What are the sore spots of your target audience? What are their problems and challenges? And how can you help them? And how are you specifically qualified to help them? So the author team I talked to yesterday, it was a self-help for corporations. Really great ladies. I had a great conversation with them. And we talked about doing one of their themes was kind of a one small step to mental health, taking care of yourself, especially in the workplace. So we said, how about putting together some type of newsletter where it's one small thing, and you get it every week, and it's just one tidbit of an idea that someone can take action on.
Friday tips or something like that.
Right. Again, this is not rocket science, but it's a way that if someone reads an article about them and really intrigued, they can sign up for something that is a low entry point into learning more. So every week or every month, however they want to do it, they can share their tips, their contents, their ideas. And at the same time, there's also some soft information about their services, because this duo, they want to talk at companies, they want to talk at organizations and the business side of helping companies and leaders within companies take care of their employees and their teams, and helping people take care of themselves and one another in the workplace. Really interesting stuff. So how can we get people might not want to hire them right away, but people might be intrigued enough to want to sign up for a newsletter, listen to a webinar, or buy their book before investing in, say, a full-day program for their company or buying 5,000 copies of their book for their organization. So it's looking at it baby steps and developing a relationship that lasts long after that Today Show coverage happens. It's really helping these authors and experts to grab the attention of potential new clients and nurturing them with pretty transparent and authentic information.
So it's as you said, it's the balance between providing information, but then also getting some promotion in there for the book.
Absolutely, and the email addresses, most authors write more than one book. The biggest audience is going to buy book number 2 are people who already know and love you. So having a strategy to communicate with your email list, and this also goes through whatever social media channels that you're on, whether it's Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, etc., that you have people who already know and love you are going to likely be the easiest ones to sell your next book to.
Perfect. And for our next topic, just pause me for a second. I want to check something. You're doing great.
Excuse me.
So presenter last year, as an example.
I didn't
she spoke
present
at
last year, by the way, it's 2 years
Authors
ago.
Conference
That's fine.
by Book Baby, and gave an educating,
Spoke
again,
at BEA
maximize
last year,
our
too.
publicity and media coverage
2
to
years
get
ago.
the most out of their campaign.
To sell consulting like email addresses, and so start having a conversation, an interaction relationship
Right,
with
sounds
you
perfect.
as an expert, which will
So now I'm going to.
Excuse me.
I'm going to ask about maybe leaning toward like self-help or
How about, can we do first what to do with the Today Show link? We can give some basic.
yeah,
tips on
and
that.
can you say what to do with the Today Show link and also links to articles, or do you want to do that separately?
No, just using your media for longer than the blip is kind of the next. So
Using that
So it's a
audio
next-
file or video,
Right.
and what to do with it.
Right.
So today, especially with obviously the internet, when there's an interview or any kind of media coverage, there's almost always an online version of it, an MP3 file or video file that provides incredible or enhances significantly what authors can do with their media coverage. But so you get that file or you get that article link. What should authors do with it? Through social media or whatever other means? What should they do?
Sure, this media clip is so valuable because it lasts. There's a kind of a myth out there that print media is more valuable than online media. But in reality, the online run, we call them, with links to articles or podcasts or radio interviews, TV interviews, etc., those are so valuable because they stay. They're valuable for SEO purposes as you're trying to get your expertise out there. So we always tell authors, if you have a name, small biz expert, like one of our clients, Melinda Emerson, to put that out there so that when people start Googling, your expertise, this happens all the time when clients will say, hey, a media contact found me directly because of all the media that I've had. They'll search for my expertise, and I came up so many times because of the exposure with I got with Smith Publicity. And so they get opportunities that way with the media and with clients.
Is that using the link with key terms like SEO terms?
It is, but it's just the exposure, and that goes into the quality and quantity of media coverage. So, people ask us, how do you measure success? And it is a both quality and quantity of media. So yes, we want to hit the quality in terms of not just size, but your target audience. Who is your ideal target audience for your book? The household name media, the Forbes, Fortune, Fast Company, Inc., etc., those are always great. Oftentimes, it's the vertical markets, the niche publications and trade publications. That's where your decision makers are reading. So we're looking at quality and quantity, because that then drives search engine optimization. But when you get a hit, a run, I should say, like the Today Show or some big or small, what you want to do is a couple of things. One, add it to your bio, as seen in, as featured in. It just separates you and elevates you from others who are vying for the same attention. You want to add it to your website. You want to start a media section so that when, again, put yourself in the position of a producer or a editor, and you're trying to vet a guest for your show or an expert for commentary. You want to go to somebody who is experienced, knows how to work the media. So you want to have a list of all your interviews or your best interviews on your website. Put them on your Author Central page. The Author Central page is something that many authors don't know exists or don't use it enough. So yes, the Author Central page is basically an author's mini website within Amazon. It links all your books. You have a much larger bio. You can add videos. You can have your blog automatically uploaded there, and add your social media, and people can follow you. So you want to add media links to your Author Central page. That's valuable too. Of course, share them on social, tag the media outlet. They love the exposure, and often pick experts who are very prolific on social media, because they know that their article or story or podcast is going to be repurposed and shared with a whole new audience.
So how do authors, let's say I'm self-help author on lifestyle issues, and I get a feature story in a major magazine or a smaller magazine.
Mm-hmm.
How do I share that link I'm active on Twitter, how do I share it without just being too promotional? Say, hey, I'm great, see me in this article, or see me on this TV interview, you got to watch this. How do you share it on social media without, there's a value to sharing it because people will get information
Mm-hmm.
from the interview or the article.
Right.
But is there a way they can couch that sharing that link or article,
Mm-hmm. Sure.
that it provides information, but not just, oh, I'm great, come see me?
Right, and that's something you want to always be a bit humble. At the same time, you want to be celebrate and be excited that you had the opportunity to be on a guest or featured in some way. So typically authors will thank the people. So excited to talk to, and you tag the outlet, you tag, if they're active on social, tag the editor or the host or the person who interviewed you, and thank them. And especially if you learn something yourself, really excited to talk about, X, Y, and Z topic, and, would love to share this with you. Thank you for the opportunity. So it comes off as a thank you rather than look at me and how great I am.
Yeah, I think that's such a key point when saying thank you.
Yes.
And too often in life and in publicity, we forget about that. And so I think that's a great idea on social media, to thank the producer
Absolutely.
and the host.
Yes.
And then also when you're tagging those people, then it may appear in their feeds and so forth.
Oh, it does, and it just shows the love all around. And when I was personally at the Today Show with one of our authors a couple of weeks ago, and we were asking them how important is having social media followers, and they said having an author or an expert who is very engaged in social media, it does set them apart from those who are, not in the limelight. It just helps them if they have two people of equal kind of presence.
And again, if you can latch on by tagging the host of the Today Show or whatever.
Yeah, and they asked us, we talked about that specifically, and they asked us if our author would give the link back to their Today Show, because they're also counting how many views, how many shares that go back to their website. So that's important for them. So you just have to think about, giving back to the media in a way that's valuable to them, and of course, broadcasting your great interview or feature in some way to your audiences, and then they kind of get behind you and they retweet it, and it's all great.
One of the things we're talking about what people can do to maximize media coverage, and it's pretty much in line with that is mentioning Amazon and how we're preaching constantly how important the Amazon page is.
It is.
So if you could talk a little bit about that, because that is a key part of benefiting from the media coverage.
Mm-hmm.
So if an author has a great feature or an interview that drives a lot of people to their Amazon and
Mm-hmm.
potentially buy the book, what are the elements of that Amazon page that, I mean, you mentioned some keyword and SEO, but what can authors do to increase the chances that somebody, when they go to their Amazon page, is going to say, hey, I want to buy this book?
Right. Well, first of all, please ask your friends, colleagues, customers, clients, mailman to put a review on your Amazon page. It's the more reviews, the better the book looks. So that's first. If you do have a major media outlet or endorsement for the book, put it on